recording live from Glory Hole Studios in Chicago and beyond. This is Cognitive Dissonance. Every episode we blast anyone who gets in our way. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and irreverence to any topic that makes the news, makes it big, or makes us mad. It's skeptical, it's political, and there is no welcome mat. Today is Thursday, January the 30th. Cecil, we are reunited. And it feels so
reunited. Good to see you, buddy. Good to see you in the flesh.
Good to be back in the studio. Viewers on our YouTube channel no longer have to look at my messy office in the background.
You have a pretty sweet system, though, in the background. There.
I do have a pretty sweet system. I am constantly making little tweaks and changes and upgrades to that
I see it in the background. I was like, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Looks like you got an 8-track back there. What's going on?
I just got a new record player.
Nice.
Back there. Yeah.
The old record player. Is that old Victrola? Is that what you got?
It's a Fluence RT85. Thank you. I actually just last week, because I joined a group for people who are into old, like 70s, 80s, 90s audio equipment.
Yeah.
Because I discovered on Marketplace, you can get that shit for a fucking steal.
Yeah, it's nothing, yeah.
And so I found a pair of these super rare Bozak speakers from 1985. And I got them from some guy like one town over from me for like next to nothing. Cecil, they're the dumbest thing I ever bought in my life. They're the size of like 2 school buses.
Are they that big?
They're so stupidly big. They're comically big. They are ungodly heavy. They're like hilariously heavy. I gotta struggle to bring these fucking things in from the car. Like,
where are they gonna go?
Oh, they're in my office. My office is 12 by 12.
What's their footprint? 9 foot by 9
It is
foot.
insane. It makes no sense, and it makes me laugh. Like I turn that thing on, and it's like, this is the dumbest thing I have.
That's amazing.
But I love it.
That's great.
It's
great.
fun toys.
Yeah, I'm glad we have something to look forward to.
Yeah, look, it's been a bad 9 days, guys. It's been a bad 9 days.
Dude, what the fuck? That's been like, it's been moment after fresh hell moment after fresh hell moment. I know that there's people in the government right now that are doing their best to slow things down and to dissent. Because there's not a ton that Democrats can do to stop some of these things. They could do their very best. And I think that the ones that are in those committees that are doing the questioning on the appointees are doing their very best to try to bring out the worst things that are possible. You brought out enough in Hegseth for Mitch McConnell to vote against him. That's something, That's a lot, right? It's not enough. Because J.D. Vance, of course, casts the tying vote that winds up making it so Hegseth is our new Secretary of Defense.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And, we were already down one Black Hawk helicopter. One Black Hawk helicopter down under his leadership.
God.
And under Trump's leadership, too, right? A plane crash. I know people, there's a group of people I think that want to say, like, well, it's not his fault. And you're like, well, shit rolls uphill when you're in charge.
Sure fucking does.
That's important. And I want to say, like, they want to strip regulation away from these things that are protecting us. And one of them happens to be the FAA. Yeah. Right. So they want to strip stuff away. They've already done some of that. The head of that department was chased out by Elon Musk a week ago because he was fining Elon Musk for things that he was doing with SpaceX. And Elon kicked his door down and yelled at him. And the guy finally just walked away from the job. So we have a system where there's an oligarch in the government who's getting fined by the government, who's knocking on doors. Yeah. And chasing people away from their job that they've been doing because we've permitted that to happen. We chose the leader who was going to do that work, and we knew he was going to do it. We read the fucking Project 2025. We knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, none of this is a surprise.
We all knew. We were reading about it last year. We were saying, guys, this could be real bad. Hey, newsflash, we're 10 days in. It's real bad. Yeah. It ain't good. But I want to say, like, there's some people who want to push back against Trump, like being somebody who should take shit for this. And it's like, no, he should 100% take shit from this. And he should double take shit for it because he's trying to pass the buck on DEI.
Yeah. Look, couple of quick points. To go back to Mitch McConnell, imagine the place that we are in right now. Imagine the dire straits that we are in right now when Mitch fucking McConnell is a moral arbiter.
Yeah.
Like when we are looking for integrity, And we're finding Mitch McConnell, one of the people with the least amount of actual integrity and one of the most practical and pragmatic game players ever to be in the Senate.
Hypocrite in the Senate.
Yeah. He's a terrible, terrible, terrible fucking person. He's fucking like senatorial game theory 101. All he cares about is achieving goals. So when he takes a principled stance, when Mitch McConnell does that, that should tell us like we've lost the moral thread. We've completely lost the moral thread. And to your point about the FAA has been in crisis now for some time. The job of the president is not to deepen the fucking crisis. And they are deepening the crisis. I remember listening to an episode of like maybe The Daily or What Next or something along those lines just a handful of months ago about the crisis in the FAA, the intent to shift the the Trump leadership intent to shift the FAA's headquarters. They're going to make this problem worse. They're going to make flying, which is already getting more dangerous as the skies become more crowded and there are less people doing ground control and doing that work. They're going to make it more and more dangerous, man. So like, yeah, this is his fucking fault. And like, it's his fault because everything from January 21st forward is his fucking fault. That's the job he took. He raised his hand and said, I want to be responsible. Well, guess what?
You're fucking
bucko?
Responsible.
You're fucking responsible. And you can't pin it on DEI. He stood in front of a group of people. This is like, if it was possible to still have meaningful, like fucking soundbite moments, this would have been one. It feels to me like at the beginning of the first administration when they're like, well, there's alternative facts. Because he stood up in front of everybody and said, well, we don't know what happened, but I have opinions.
Yeah.
And you're like, can you hear that?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but here's my opinion. Let's blame it on people of color and women and gays. That's your plan? Because that's what he thinks DEI is, right? So I'm not saying that I think that's what DEI is to the audience.
Yeah.
Like, he came out and said it. Like, that plane crashed into a helicopter, not because the FAA needs to be better funded and we need more actual air traffic controllers. And because it looks like actually one guy was doing two persons' job at the time and maybe that contributed to the problem. And actually maybe we should just fucking wait until we know what caused the problem before we opine on it. But instead, as the leader of the country, let me fearlessly declare, I don't know what happened. Here are my thoughts.
Yeah,
it was the Browns.
Here's my thing. It really is, man. It really is,
shit?
Dude. It really is. It's not hidden anymore. But I also want to tell people, like, this is a group of people that's going to come in and they're going to rip every regulation that they can.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, when they hear that, they think, oh, well, you know what? I think the government's bloated. I think that's a problem. I think that, maybe there's plenty of places to cut. We should be able to cut these different things, et cetera, et cetera. The FAA makes sure you land and you take off and you get to your destination safely. That's the job, what they do. That's how they work. That's what they do. So there are certain things we can't compromise on. There's certain things we can't cut and we shouldn't cut and we should bolster and we shouldn't look at and say, what we're going to do is we're going to cut all the, look at what happened with Reagan. Reagan had them all walk out on strike on him.
Yeah.
Right. So we had the thing is like, certain regulations are absolutely bedrock necessary things in our life. And in fact, a lot of regulations are probably pretty good if you think about them and if you put them in the right context. This is a moment for us to reflect and be like, you know what? Maybe we don't want to cut so deep into those regulations. Maybe we want to leave those fucking alone. Maybe we want to bolster that department. Maybe we want to do the right thing here instead of just following these dollars that all we're trying to do is wring as much out of the budget as we can so billionaires get to save a couple bucks.
Exactly. And I also I was thinking about something this week. There is a narrative that I grew up with, that you probably grew up with, that everybody who's listening to this probably grew up with, which is that idea that the government is inefficient and full of bloat.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's true. That's just something I've heard in the general zeitgeist my whole life. I've never seen any evidence of that, actually. I don't know with a certainty of fact that the government is too big, that it's full of bloat, that it's inefficient. I don't know that I believe that. I know that I've been made to believe that because it's been told to me a million times by everybody on the street fucking repeating it as a sort of like shared common knowledge. But when I stop and reflect on that, I think, I don't know that that's true. I actually don't know whether that's true or not true. I've never actually looked into it. I've never actually ran the numbers. I've never actually seen a study. I actually don't know of any times that I can think of in my own life personally where the federal government interfered in some way that I'm resentful of. I don't know that the government's too big. That's just some shit that we've been sold.
I think ICE is too big.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think
that's because I don't believe in their mission.
Yeah. I think that there's some things that, but I think that people on the other side think the exact same thing about some things though, right? And I think that's what politics is all about, is that they look at, I look at ICE and I think that's the biggest police force in our country. It's a waste of money. We should be spending money in different places.
Sure. Right.
They probably look at the immigration judges and they think we should be spending more money on ICE. And that's the that's the fight we've got to have between us, right? We got to fight. I got to fight them. And there's an ideological argument on their side and an ideological argument on my side. So I do think that there is some, clearly I see, but I think like I understand your point in that, are we saying everything the government puts its hand in is somehow inefficient?
Right.
And I agree. I don't think that's true.
Yeah. You know, when I think of government, I think, you know, my mind immediately is like, all right, well, where are we spending most of our money?
Yeah.
We're spending most of our money on the U.S. military.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I mean, if we want to talk about bloat, shouldn't we look at the biggest line item?
There's plenty of ways to look at it there.
Yeah. You know, if I were to take the same principles that I would apply to my day job, and I were to say, okay, I think we need to look and make sure we're running an efficient operation. The very first thing you would do is say, okay, well, let's look at our expenses and see which are our biggest expenses, and we'll start there. It makes no sense for me to curtail T&E expenses if they're 3% of my fucking budget item when I'm spending 45% of my budget on personnel. I should look at personnel first, right? So when I look at the U.S. government and think about what they do, I should look and see where we're spending most of our money. Well, we're spending most of our money in the military. Then I have to make choices. Is that smart? I don't know.
Should we?
I don't know that answer. But what I do know is that, like, cutting out, like, hey, you know, we should have less inspectors general making sure that the government is actually doing the things that it's supposed to do by law. No one saves a dollar doing that. It's like 0.00001% of anything. It's nothing.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, most of the shit we're like gonna get all worked up about doesn't cost us anything. We don't save anything, and all we do is lose protections.
Yeah.
That's not like curtailing government bloat. None of that. If we want to really talk about curtailing government bloat, we should talk about the military first.
Sure.
Anything that doesn't start with the military is lying to you.